On this week's episode, we talk to our younger selves.
We give advice to those of you listening about how we became better advocates for ourselves.
So stick around.
Hello, and welcome to Rare with Flair,
The podcast where two 20-somethings with the same rare disease are living their best lives. I'm your host, Cassandra.
And I'm your host, Casey.
I almost forgot my name for a second.
No, I almost just did the intro incorrectly, too. I was about to say hello and welcome. My name is Casey instead of hello and welcome to Rare with Flair.
I was about to say my name is Casey. Guys, are we okay?
Is this because we took a break? I don't know, but hey, we're back from our break. We're happy to be back.
Happy 2022.
And happy 2022. This is the start of our third season.
Wow. Okay, so during the break, I went through and organized our pod. If you want to check out a lot more of what I did, you can see our website. I added some intros where we ran out of time and I didn't do that. And now we have seasons for each year that we've been doing the pod. So you'll be able to see that on Apple. And I think I'm really proud of where we're at right now. Oh my gosh.
We are in our third calendar year of the pod.
It's unbelievable.
And 3 is my favorite number. So I'm like ready to get into season. I feel like season 3 is always good on TV shows.
That's true.
So, I mean, it's going to be great.
Really get our groove. And I hope that that's how it ends up working for us on this pod. Woo.
Yes, but how was your Christmas? How was your holiday? Did we already talk? We definitely might have already talked about that in our last episode. Or did we record our... I don't even remember.
When did we
recorded our last one before or after Christmas?
I think it was before Christmas, actually.
I think it was before Christmas. So how was your Christmas?
My Christmas was really great. It was really low-key. A lot of the reason is because of this, new variant happening. I was actually supposed to travel, but ended up not doing that for a lot of reasons. And, yeah, you know what? It's been really nice to be home and relaxing and taking care of things around here. So I think that that's been really good, but it was just me and my parents, and it was great. How about you?
Yes, it was really, really good. I enjoy Christmas so much, but something I enjoy almost as much as Christmas is kind of being able to relax after Christmas because it's so busy and crazy and fun, but it's nice to kind of do a new year, clean slate, get your life back together, get your stuff in order and your house clean, and it feels good to just kind of have a slower week after, or slower few weeks after Christmas. So
2 things.
It was very good.
2 things. I want to brag about Case because Case did a lot of cooking over the holidays, and she sent me a text that I quote, "Cooking is so fun." And honestly, I'm so proud.
Yeah, Cass responded and she said, Casey a year ago would have never said cooking is fun. And man, do I agree. If I can do it, anybody can do it, because I never thought in a million years I would like cooking. And I did enjoy a lot of cooking over the holidays. And I even have been baking, I just baked banana bread a few days ago.
That's
and
so great.
I'm just continuing even just to cook and bake for myself, even though I live alone.
Same.
It's still fun and it's relaxing. I put on a nice playlist and I just, especially baking is relaxing, there's something about it that's very therapeutic in a way. And I've always heard people say that and I never understood what they meant.
That's why people do stress baking, because it's
it's true.
It's really nice, and assuming it all goes well and you don't pick something extremely complicated, you come out with something yummy and delicious that you can be proud of.
And then you get to eat it. So that's fun. What was your second thing? You said you had 2 things.
So I wanted to quickly see if we wanted to say, I know we thought about it on our last episode. I don't know if we really did talk about it. If we had any other goals or resolutions for this year.
Oh, that's a good question. I have quite a few. I'll pick one to throw out there. Let's see. I want to get better with navigation this year in the city that I live in. I think this is maybe a relatable one for some low vision people, although everybody is different, and you do have those low vision people like Cass who are actually like really good at navigating. I'm good at navigating when I need to be. I have like a naturally good sense, but since I've never had to pay attention in the car, I just have never paid attention. I just like get on my cell phone in the car, or I talk to the person, or I just don't pay attention to where we're going. And I want to get more mindful about doing that. And I want to be better about being able to tell somebody how to get back to my house from wherever I am in the city. And, you know, when I lived in New York, I was really good about that because I had to be, because I was walking.
Right.
But since I'm not driving, I don't have to be. And so, yeah, that's one of my goals. I have many goals this year, and I like goal setting, but I'll share just that one for now. Some of them are a little more like personal or,
sure,
you know, but what about
that's
you?
Great. So I love to set very simple goals, for every new year. Like I want something that I can realistically motivate myself to do that is like small enough to do. So last year I wanted to drink more water, and I actually did do that pretty much all year. This year, my small resolution is to be better at flossing, because I went to the dentist in November and they said that my gums could definitely use some help. So I bought a water flosser, and honestly, I've been flossing for almost a week now, and I feel amazing. Actually.
I mean, you obviously don't mean the teeth thing. You mean the dance craze flossing that swept the nation.
Yeah, of course.
You want to be better at flossing.
I want to do
a
TikTok dance every day.
Yeah, that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But every single day you want to practice that dance.
Yeah.
But no, flossing.
I'm not good at that dance either.
No, I can't do it. Man. I was trying it during the lockdown of 2020 because that's where we were at that point in time.
I
have videos of myself. It's bad. My mom can do it really well.
Wow, yay.
My mom was like an aerobics instructor, and she's pretty good at like physicality, stuff like that, and she can do it, man. I don't know. But anyway, teeth flossing, back to that. Yeah. I started like probably 2 years ago flossing every night. I was really bad about it before that.
Same.
And once I started, it got to the point where I would feel like bad. My mouth would feel weird if I didn't do it. Like, and maybe you'll get to that point eventually where you'll feel weird about not doing it. I don't know. That's how I started feeling. So I think that's an attainable goal.
I think so too. I saw my parents yesterday, and my mom was like, wow, your gums look so good. Like,
well, yeah, gum health is like really important, and it can affect your whole body too, you know.
Right.
So,
but
I like that goal.
Well, I hope that everyone again has a really great start to the year, and we're gonna launch in. We're gonna
launch. So I'm gonna explain the concept of this episode. Cass and I realized that we've talked about a lot of things related to disability, but we haven't really ever done a full episode about advocacy, about standing up for ourselves, about getting the accommodations we need. And also, we kind of wanted to pair that with what is advice we would want to give to our younger selves. And maybe like younger listeners can take this advice and run with it. But what would we have wanted to tell our 12-year-old self, our 8-year-old self, you know, mainly about advocacy and standing up for and speaking up for yourself and that kind of thing.
Right. And like, we've always talked about this topic as reference to school, which I think for, you know, a lot of part of our lives, like, I think still at this point, I could say that you and I almost up to this point that we've still had more time in school than out of school. So, you know, it really is framed by being in an academic setting, and we'll definitely be talking about that. But advocacy is obviously more than that. It's advocating for yourself in pretty much all situations, whether it's like social or work or school. So, you know, just wanted to bring that up, and I thought that, like, we thought that it would be good to just highlight advocacy as a whole.
Yeah, it is often talked about in like a work or school setting, but I feel like I have to advocate for myself every moment of every day.
Pretty
almost.
much.
Like, it's just all the time. You have to explain what you need wherever you are. If you're out shopping, even going, and I'm not trying to skip ahead, but even as far as like going back to when we were little kids at a friend's house and we couldn't see the TV.
Right.
Are you going to speak up during that situation for yourself to get what you need to see the TV? I mean, it's just like, it's all the time. It's all the time.
Yeah.
So we wanted to go back kind of to our childhood. I know we start in childhood a lot. And I know some people don't lose their vision till later in life. So the childhood aspect might not even really play a part. But I think you'll still relate to the advocacy part of this, because obviously now that you're disabled, you're still going to have to advocate for yourself.
And also, it's not like, I wouldn't say that it's always innate. I think that advocacy is more of a learned skill that over time you get to be better at. And whether you're an adult trying to learn to advocate for yourself for maybe the first time, or if you're younger and you're still in that process, like, it is an ever-evolving process. So, like, wherever you are in your journey with advocacy for yourself, we hope that something that we say in our journeys will speak to you.
Yeah, and we're not perfect. We're still learning every day. And we're not here saying that we've got it all under control or we're so confident and we're so great at it, because we still struggle too. And I think some people are maybe better at it than others. And I think personality types come into play.
True.
Throwing in our episode we did about personality types a while ago, I think we can like reference that. Yeah. We have too many episodes now to even say. Remember when we used to be able to say what number an episode was?
Now we can say that episode was in season 2.
You're right. That episode was in season 2. So go check that out if you want to hear a little more about our personality types. We're going to bring them up in this episode because they're bound to come up. I think they come into play a lot here.
Also, if you want to hear our very first episode on like advocacy that was school related, that was in season 1.
Season 1, yeah, our first school episode. That was episode 5, and I can tell you that with pretty good certainty.
After about 13, I lost them.
Yeah, we're lost after about 13. So we wanted to talk about starting in childhood, and this can even go up to adulthood possibly for some of you, but we thought of 3 main reasons why we might not have advocated for ourselves in childhood. The first one, I think you can talk about the first one because you're the one who actually brought this up, and I think it's a good point.
Right. So I was thinking, and again, as a reminder, Casey and I, not only have we not lost our vision, but we have been legally blind since birth. We've seen about the same as far as our vision goes since, the start of our lives. So we have had lots of time to adapt to this. So this goes way back to when we were really young. But one thing that I remember specifically when I was in like 1st and 2nd grade is that you didn't know exactly what you even needed for a situation. I was thinking about this in regards to, I don't know, as a kid, you grow up with a certain worldview based on what your parents, give to you and tell you. And you often go in assuming that everyone has a very similar experience to you. So, as a kid, I knew that I didn't see as much as the other kids, but I didn't know to what extent was like not normal and what extent I actually needed to use help for. So like I would put my face against the paper that I was doing the math problems on. Whereas now as an adult, I would ask for something different, or if I would, in that time, which was 2002, I would use a magnifier or something else besides just trying to put my face on it. But I didn't know any better because I was a kid. Yeah,
we were always aware that we couldn't see well. It wasn't something we just discovered one day. I think we were always kind of aware of that, but we didn't. How are you supposed to know what you need and what's normal, and how do you even know how to verbalize it at that age? And we didn't know. I mean, when you're 5 or 6 years old, you have no idea what the other kids are using versus what you need to use, and it's it can be confusing. And we've talked about how we had a lot of assistive technology just thrown at us at a young age, and it's hard to know what works for you. And so I think one of the reasons we might not have been great advocates is simply because we did not know what we even needed to advocate for ourselves. And so And I'm not really saying how to solve this issue. I think this is something you just have to learn over time. You're not going to be born knowing what you need. So, like, I'm not really here to give advice on how to solve that, but it is just something that you don't have the words to articulate at that age of what you really need.
Yeah, or like that level of experience with having your vision be the way that it is. Like, I mean, I've talked about in the past that I do wear glasses, like corrective lenses, but they don't, make me not blind. They just help me be able to see with a little bit sharper focus, so I don't have to strain my eyes as much. But I still, like, they don't correct my vision. You can hear all about that in one of our earlier episodes. But, like, it was like when I was 6 or 7 that I did actually get my first pair of glasses. And it did really help that I didn't have to put my face on top of the paper. It could be a couple inches from the paper. But I didn't know that until, someone recommended something and we tried something new. And so it's hard because, like Casey said, like, you don't know what you need. You don't know what's available to you. And you can feel a little bit overwhelmed by choice. Like, here's a CCTV, here's a monocular, here's a magnifier. Try them all. See what you like.
It's a lot of trial and error at that age. And it still is. As you get older, I'm about to try glasses at 29. It's like a lot of trial and error and just trying to know. I mean, I've tried glasses before, and that's a whole other story we're not going to get into. But just different kinds of glasses or different kinds of things that you've never tried, you might want to try them. So that's one of the reasons. There are 3. So I'm going to go ahead and get into the second reason. The second reason that you might not want to advocate for yourself is, and this kind of goes into the first one a little, but it's a little different, just feeling overwhelmed by all of it, just kind of wanting to sit back and not have to deal with any of it. It's a lot of hard work to advocate for yourself. It's overwhelming to try to do it, and sometimes you just want to give up and be like everybody else and not have to work so hard for it, I
also, it really touches on, I don't know, you're highlighting your difference. And by using assistive tech or by asking for an accommodation, you are highlighting your own differences. And that can be really embarrassing in some situations. Like, I would consider myself a pretty confident person. And I don't really mind too much what other people think. But even so, it's still sometimes uncomfortable to have to ask for the thing, even though I'm well aware that I'm never going to, quite look normal or fit into a normal lens. But, like, you just want to hold on to that little shred of normalcy that you do have. So, you may hold back to ask for help that you actually do need.
Yes, I was just realizing we write like bullet points for the pod, and I was reading the wrong one, but it all kind of, the second one I think was actually supposed to be embarrassment, but it all kind of goes together. Like, I think you are, like Cass said, you are embarrassed at that age, especially at a young age, and maybe even in adulthood too.
Yeah.
I've talked to a lot of adults who are still embarrassed to say, hey, I'm blind, or hey, I'm visually impaired. They're embarrassed to say it, and I'm not, and there's nothing wrong with that. We always say everyone's in their own journey. And we hope for you listening. Like, our hope and our prayer for you listening is that you can grow to a point where you aren't embarrassed because that's who you are. But there's nothing wrong with that feeling because it's a normal feeling.
Yeah.
And we, especially as kids, felt really embarrassed to have accommodations. I didn't want big papers. I had a teacher who joked about my big papers and made a big deal when I was 10, which is the worst age ever because you're trying to be cool when you're 10.
Oh, of course.
And then I had a slant board, which is to help. It's so the papers won't be flat on the desk. You don't have to bend your neck down as far to read papers.
It's
but it was
to
huge,
help your back.
And it was bulky. And you look at all the other kids at their desks with their normal paper on the desk, and then you pan over to your desk, and it's this huge slant board on it. And I was embarrassed, straight up embarrassed, mortified that I looked like that and had all that extra crap that in my opinion at the time was crap that I had. I mean, I was lucky to have it, but also so embarrassed by it.
You don't appreciate what you have at that age because all you want to do is be like everybody else. And again, this is
like,
not...
I realize, sorry.
No,
what?
Go ahead.
I realized we were privileged to have what we have, but at that age, like you said, you're not going to realize that.
And this is not exclusively limited to 10-year-olds. Like, seriously, again, even adults struggle with this kind of a feeling. I always talk about, I've mentioned it probably a few times before at this point, but like how I refused to use my monocular for a year or two because I just felt like it was the thing that made me different. And so, like, you know, people always wanted to play with it, and I didn't want that. Like, I just wanted to be able to sit at my desk and copy down the notes like everybody else. But, like, I knew that was never going to happen after a few years of figuratively beating my head against the wall, you know?
Oh yeah, we still, and we'll talk about this a little later in the episode. I want to get into, like, times now where we still feel self-conscious about it.
Girl, I had a time last week I didn't advocate for myself.
No, yeah, we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about that because we do have those moments still to this day. So, like, we don't want, like I said at the beginning, we're not perfect. We're not like, oh, like, we're so good at it. Yeah. But I think we can both agree that we're leaps and bounds better than we were when we were 10.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean much better. And we'll get into that. Like I said, the third thing, sorry, I like skipped ahead, but the third thing is, and I want you to talk about this because you mentioned a specific story last time, we don't want to be a burden.
Yeah. I think that it's really hard to ask for things, not only because you're the one that looks different, but people feel put out by, like, a certain amount of requests. I think, like, people act like they're very willing to help you, but if you, it feels like you ask too much and then they get annoyed. The example that I was thinking of, though, was, like, as a young kid, I've mentioned this before, but, like, I wasn't the best at picking up social cues. I didn't really read the room too well, but I just, like, did my thing, and I was, like, happy with myself. But it wasn't until I started trying to that I noticed, like, there's only so many times that you can tell a teacher that, like, you can't see the illustrations in the book that you're reading, to continuously remind them that they, like, you can feel the tension and you can kind of hear them, like, sighing a little bit. And I just, like, I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to forget about it. Like, whatever. Yep. Like, it's that moment that you're like, all right, not only am I looking different and I was willing to risk that, but, like, they don't even really want to help me. And now I feel like I'm just in the way.
Yes. So many well-meaning people throughout our lives have told us, you don't need to be afraid to ask for help. People are happy to help. People are willing to help. Don't be afraid. But we have both experienced many, many times where we have asked for help and people act put out by it.
Yeah.
And those kind of things really kind of scar you and stick with you and make you not want to ever ask for help again. Because, like Cass said, you're already being vulnerable by asking. Mm-hmm. And the worst thing that can happen is you asking and then someone kind of acting annoyed by it. And if we asked every single time for every little thing, we would be talking. I mean, that would be a little
extreme.
There has to be times, and this is what we've learned since we were born, there has to be times where you sit back and don't say a word.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I don't think you need to be able to see every little thing. There are some things that we know that if we don't see it, it's not going to ruin our day. It's not going to ruin our life. I think when it comes to, like, if it's going to affect your grade in a class or it's going to affect your work, then that's when you really can't let it slide. You can easily let things slide if it's not going to actually affect. I mean, it kind of sucks you can't see it, but it's not going to actually affect anything. Then okay, don't say anything.
Exactly, and that's a matter of like picking your battles.
Yeah, choose your battles.
Figure out what is the most important thing for you to be able to do right now. Because also, not only we don't need to ask people for everything we do. We've talked about before on other episodes that, like, we have our own coping mechanisms, especially, like, now with the advent of technology, using our phones, we can do a lot more than we probably could have done back when we were in school, not just because we were young, but because of the availability of resources at the time. So like we don't always need to ask for help. But when we do, we need to also weigh the option of like, is this going to affect my performance in something that matters, that holds weight? If, or like, is this a social thing that I actually really want to participate in, but I'm afraid to ask because I think people are going to be annoyed by me?
Yeah, and I think not only has technology changed a lot since we were young, I think the stigmas of disability have changed a lot since we were young. I think kids nowadays are more equipped to be confident about it and advocate for themselves. And I work with an organization that where I'm coming into contact with a lot of people with albinism and visual impairment. And what I've come to see is like the generational differences is really, really striking. And also kids these days often do like a presentation for the class, their classroom, about their vision and about their condition, which I think is really cool because it like sets people can, have their own opinion on that of if they think it's a good idea or not. But I think it's cool that it like sets the scene at the beginning of the year of school. This is what my disability is about. This is what I'm going to need. And so then later on when you're advocating or when you're using a tool, it's maybe not as embarrassing because people aren't going to be making a big scene about it, asking about it, that kind of thing.
I have a question. Have you ever done that before?
The presentation?
Yeah, or something of the like, yeah. Have you done
I don't think so. When I was a kid, it's not that I didn't want to. It was just never really like talked about as much or presented to me. Like nowadays, there are like packets that are provided, that kids can take to school and things like that. And I just don't remember that being a thing back then. And I think that's because nowadays disability is more widely talked about. But like, did you ever do that?
Sort of, actually. I don't know if it was actually effective or not because I still feel like there was a lot in terms of what I needed to ask and what I needed. Of course, no one was going to predict my needs. But I don't remember when, but there were a few years that we had this like VHS tape about like what is albinism.
Oh, cute.
And I remember like bringing that to a couple classes, like a science class or something. I don't even remember.
What year? Like how old were you? Like high school?
No, I was in elementary.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, like I don't know if I did it every single year. My mom is probably listening to this, like shouting at her phone, being like, "No, we did it this time," and she's gonna message me right
Sandra.
after this. But like, I remember having done that, especially like in 4th grade. I think I did it. I don't really know how effective it was because I think it just more talked about like the social experience of having albinism. And also at that age, I don't think up until probably a year or two ago, I didn't think I had like a really great way of expressing to people what it is that I see and how it is that I could like benefit from help. But it was like a little something that we tried.
I'm wondering, there's no way for me to know now, but I'm wondering if at that age that would have embarrassed me.
I'm thinking about it now, and I'm wondering why I wasn't embarrassed. Cause
I know, I didn't really, I was open about my disability even back then. My friends knew I said I had ocular albinism, although that's not exactly the type of albinism I actually have. We came to find out. But they all knew the name. I would talk about it openly, but I still didn't want to bring attention to it in a classroom setting. And hold on, really quick, before I go on. I live in a condo, and we're having a ton of landscaping going on outside, and it's very loud. And I really hope the mic isn't picking it up. But if you can hear it, I'm telling the listeners right now that I apologize for that. But I like, what's funny, though? As much as I was, like, ashamed of my albinism as a kid, I also had this little part of me that, like, thought it made me special.
That's exactly why I'm thinking that I didn't mind the VHS tape, is because I thought it was like my special thing.
It's my special. Okay, can I tell a quick little story that I just remembered? I've talked about her before. When I was like 5, I had this mentor who was like in her 30s at the time. I still know her. We're still friends. And she had albinism. And that was the only person I knew at the time that had albinism. And she was a singer and I liked singing. And she was like my idol at that age,
cute.
you know? And she was a singer, like I said, and she wrote her own music, and she wrote mainly like Christian music, and she would tour different churches and do a concert and stuff. And she's very talented. Her songs are great. She's very talented. And anyway, she like she didn't live here in Memphis, but she came to Memphis and did like a concert. And it was like real. I thought it was just like the coolest thing. Like we invited my friends, like, oh, we're going to this concert. And I remember one of my friends telling me, I wish I had albinism too. And I was like, why? And I said, why? Because it is really hard. It wasn't all sunshine and roses. It was really hard. And I said, why? And she was like, well, because you get to like, you know, meet those cool people, and you get to like go to that concert and like have that like cool friend, and like, and it like, and a part of me, like, even though at times I hated it and at times I still hate it, a part of me was like, yeah, I do get to like meet cool people through it and do cool things through it at that age. So anyway, that's just
that's an awesome story. I feel
and
like
I still feel that way.
relevant.
I met Cass. I met you. I met you. And hey, if I had to have this to meet Cass, it was worth it.
Oh, girl, it was so worth it. I'm so glad I've gotten to know you.
All of my struggles through first grade was leading me to you.
This is why we're here.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, anyway, maybe that's why you weren't, go back to your story about the video.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why you weren't embarrassed in the first grade.
I think it was like fun and cool because I was like, oh, look, like these people, like they look like me. Even though I was like in school and growing up, my hair was like starting to get darker from the white that it was when I was born. But I was still like, no, that's like, I identify with these people. And I didn't know anyone with albinism until I think I was like 13.
No, yeah, I didn't meet anyone else until I was a teen.
Yeah.
But like, I'm sure that video and showing your classmates that video maybe kind of validated your experience, because I never felt understood ever, especially by kids. I feel like even my adult friends don't really understand, but kids really don't understand. And that's a good thing in some ways because they treat you really normal. But like, they really don't. They weren't sitting there thinking, oh, Casey must have a hard time seeing the board. Like, they didn't care. Like, and so maybe like seeing that video, like, oh, they're like seeing into my experiences that I have.
Sure. And again, I don't know if anyone actually remembered it beyond like the time that it was played, but I'm glad that we did try something that, like, you know, and I'm also glad because I've seen, and there's no shame to this, but I think that as a kid, I don't know if I would have liked this. I've seen parents go in and present to a kid's class.
Oh.
And I don't know if I like that a lot. Again, if you're a parent and you've done this and you're listening, like, we're not shaming you.
No.
But I don't know about that, because I feel like a parent, as well-meaning as they might be, and as probably better that they could explain their child's condition, they don't live their child's experience.
Also, I feel like that's part of the advocacy point, right? If the parent is doing it, then the child is not having to. And like we said, if you're a parent and you've done this, I'm sure, you know, the best intentions were there, and it's not like it's going to be like harmful to your child or anything. But like the whole advocacy point of this is for the child to be able, like, one of the definitions in my mind of advocacy is being able to put into words what you need and what's going on with you. And so a child learning at an early age the terms nystagmus, the terms photophobia, the terms legally blind, being able to like put those words into meaning and explain it to other people is literally part of what advocacy is. And you're going to need, and I feel like that's one of the ways I've become a really good advocate is I literally have like multiple scripts in my head ready to fire off at any given moment. And I have said it so many times that it's like freaking like memorized. I'm like a well-oiled machine. When people need to ask me a question about what's going on, I'm like ready to go.
Yeah,
so,
it becomes second nature, but it's through experience. And like you just said, like, when kids learn words like this, or when, you know, adults learn words that relate to their specific condition, to be able to better express, like, knowledge is power. They're able to like feel more empowered because they know what they're talking about.
Yeah. And kind of getting into like our personality types, I wanted to touch on that a little bit because I feel like we've talked about this many times. You are more of a naturally assertive person than I am, and maybe more of a natural advocate than I am and was. Mm-hmm. Just because I think you have kind of that stronger personality type. Like, do you agree?
I would probably say so. Again, everyone has insecurities, but all throughout, like, my childhood, it was really apparent to pretty much anyone that I was very, like, self-assured. Like, I was, like, and maybe to my detriment, like, it took me a while to figure out how to people correctly, but, like, I was really, like, you know, I was happy with myself. I knew, like, you know, I knew my worth, so to speak, but, like, I think growing up, getting to be like a teen, I started to realize that, like, you know, I started to learn more about the world around me, and I was like, oh, I guess that's not a normal thing. I mean, I still do that as an adult. I'm like, oh, that's not a normal thing.
Well, I'm kind of weird because I feel like I am really self-assured and pretty confident. My problem is I'm a people pleaser who doesn't want to rock the boat at all. And like I'm kind of more passive than assertive. I'm not a very assertive person.
I think
if somebody says like you can't do it this way, I'll be like, okay, I won't try.
I think that like it depending the situation, like I'll weigh my options and I'll weigh the cost, and sometimes I'll just be like, screw it, it doesn't really matter. I'm just gonna tell them what I think. Like, you know, if I don't really need to deal with a person again, like I will tell them like, no man, I need this thing. I'm gonna have to, you know, I can be more forceful, but there are, you know, I'm not like that all the time. It really did take me until probably about my second year of undergrad to be a more confident advocate for myself. And then now a lot of the reason is through this podcast where we've been able to learn more about ourselves and verbalize a lot of things to explain to people who may not have any idea what we're talking about. I've become a better advocate in like social situations, and I feel like I have more vocabulary and examples to be able to tell people how I see, because it is really hard to explain.
Yeah, and I want to like say, you know, nothing is black and white, and we are both really complex people. So I'm not saying like, oh, you're always assertive and forceful, and I'm always meek and passive. Like there are definitely times where I've stood up for myself, as well as there are definitely times where you have been afraid to. It's not like we're just these caricatures of like you're a type 8 Enneagram and you're always gonna like go for it. Like you know, that's not how it always is.
No, and I think that you are pretty self-assured, like
I'm pretty self-assured. I'm just a people pleaser too.
For being a people pleaser, like you have more confidence than I think people would assume when they hear about like a personality like yours. I think that you are able to like know when it counts and then be able to do it from there, because like,
I'm able to do it. I'm just not like my mom. We call my mom the polite bulldozer because she'll get it done what she needs to get done, and she pushes more than I would. Sometimes I'll just give up and not want to push anymore, you know. But I mean, there's always every situation is different too, and like I just wanted to bring up personality types because for some people, advocating is literally harder because of just how their personality is. You know, so had to bring that up a little bit. Yeah,
and to that point, like, to be fair, it is hard regardless. Even if, like, you have a really naturally assertive personality, there are still, like, things that I find difficult. I am glad for my personality that it does make it a bit easier to do. But yeah, it's a process, and it takes time and lots of like lifelong learning.
Well, we also want to represent the blind community well, so we can't really be rude. It's like that horrible thing where you feel like since you're blind, you can't really be rude because you don't want people. Does that make sense? Like I feel like disabled people feel this pressure to always be like sunshiny and nice, so that we don't come off as like bothersome or like a burden or whatever. So like if you're like really pushing for something you need, people might think like, oh, that person's rude or whatever, when really we're just pushing for like a basic human right. But we gotta like tiptoe that line.
I think this gets into the point of diversity where you're like the token, you become tokenized, right? So you're like token disabled or blind person, because quite frankly people probably haven't met many other, if any other, blind or disabled person, and you feel this obligation as possibly the only person they've met like this in their lives to leave a good impression, to speak for your entire group.
Yeah,
which is like a lot of pressure.
Yeah, you feel like you feel like you're representing all blind people a lot of the time. And that is a lot of pressure, and I've heard other people talk about it. It's a thing we all feel. And it's just like, not all blind people are always happy, and not all blind people are always, I feel like disabled people get this rap of like, they're always so nice, and that's not true. There's some blind people who might be jerks. But because we're people. At the bottom of it, like, we're just people. Like, and like, some people are...
I think some people get really cynical and jaded after having to, like, push for things for so long that they are, like, always in a crappy mood.
Well, it's kind of like if you get 15 questions about your guide dog, by the 15th question, you might kind of be short with the person and kind of a little snippy, and they might think, oh, that's rude.
By the 5th question, I'm short and
answered
snippy.
The same question. Yeah. Well, they don't realize you've literally answered the same question 50 times, and you're just trying to like live your life and eat your lunch or whatever.
Exactly. And like, and in that case, like, people will literally interrupt what you're doing in order to like learn. And honestly, like, I don't know. I know that like a big part of our job is to educate people, but at the same time, we are also people, and like there are plenty of resources now online that you can learn for yourself.
Yeah, I love educating people, but there's like a time and a place. Like if I'm in the middle of something, I can't always be like a textbook for every person.
Do not interrupt me when I'm on the phone. Don't.
I used to have people like stop me on the way to work and ask my life story, and I'm like, I don't really know you, but that's my like people pleasy thing though, where I always feel the need to be really nice. I'm not good at like cutting people off. I like feel the need to be so nice that I like talk to them. Because once again, I'm trying to give blind people a good name. Right. I don't know. It's like this whole complicated thing. But,
and that gets into something else. But to round this out, first of all, what would let's actually answer the question or the title. Like, what would we say to our younger selves?
Oh goodness, I would say it gets better.
Definitely.
I definitely think it gets better. It's never going to be perfect. People are people, and nobody is educated well enough about disabilities in the first place. But it gets better. It's hard to say, like, don't care what other people think, because that's never going to work. But try your best to read up on your condition. Mm-hmm. You know what else I think helps? Try your best to really, really plug into a community.
That's a big deal.
The more you talk to people like you, the more you feel confident to be like. I remember when I first got my cane, I was nervous. I felt like I was the only person in the whole world who used a cane, but I would talk to other people, Cass being one of them, who used it, and it made me feel less alone. And like, I don't want to take all of your like, I'll stop there because I know you have other advice.
I mean, I think that's a really great thing, because I was just gonna say, why I started using a cane is because I went to a NOAA conference where I saw other people with albinism doing it.
And you know what? I was asking Cass the other day, I said, what was the moment you feel like you became a better advocate for yourself? And she said, it was when I got my guide dog. Yeah. And I think for me, it was when I got my cane, which is very similar, because we no longer could hide. It was out in the open. People are going to ask questions, and we no longer could like blend in with the crowd. Like when you have a guide dog or a cane, you are publicly saying, I am blind to the world. And so like that makes you a better advocate out of necessity. Like you just have to be at that point. You can't be ashamed anymore. Like you're past the point of shame. You just have to do it.
Yeah. And to take that leap, to be able to be confident enough to try and use a mobility aid, because like there is a degree of confidence that goes with it. Like you're figuratively like putting your money where your mouth is, and you're like, all right, I'm basically outing myself as being pretty physically disabled, by using a mobility aid of some kind. And now I have to be able to ask for what I need, because otherwise, like, I'm just ineffective altogether. Like, I'm just here with my thing, and if I let people like walk all over me, and like I don't stand up for the things that I need in order to be able to get a good grade or do better at my job, or be part of this social encounter, then I'm not helping anyone, including myself.
Yes, and I feel like if your vision loss is not severe enough to where you don't feel like you need a tool, that's okay too. We're not saying like use a tool. But if you do, if you feel like you could benefit from it, but you're too scared, that's okay. But if you ever reach that point where you feel confident enough to use it, I think your advocacy skills will skyrocket. And that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
But what about you? Like, what advice would you give to your younger self?
I think in terms of things like mobility aids or even just like visual aids, I would want to like give myself the permission to use them, even though it may feel uncomfortable. And of course, like you said, you can't just say don't think about what people are gonna say.
We're past that. We're gonna always care. We are gonna always care. And people who are not in our shoes don't understand it because they think just don't care what people think. But it's a societal problem where people don't understand blind people and they accuse us of faking. It's this whole horrible thing. So we're not gonna not care. I'm never gonna not care.
No, but like
I just can't.
You get to a point where your need to do whatever it is greater than, what people think of you.
Yes. It's not that we don't care. We just care more about using it than we don't.
Yeah. So, like, that, I think that of just, like, hey, you know what? Even if you do look weird, because that's, what a 12-year-old would think, do it so that you can get good grades. Right? Because I was a nerd in school, and that would have been motivational to me. Like, I would have been like, okay, if I can get better grades by just using my monocular and being able to copy down the notes correctly, well then, okay, yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Well, like, what was the time recently that you were, like, have you had times recently where you've still been afraid to advocate for yourself or to use tools?
I don't know if it was afraid, but it was more of just, like, I picked my battle, right? I decided to calculate the cost, and to me, it wasn't worth it to advocate for myself in that moment. I was watching a show last week with my friends, and we were watching it like on a TV. It was like a Netflix show, and I could have done a few things. I could have sat closer to the TV. I could have asked them to turn on audio description. I could have, I don't know. There are a number of things that I could have done to make it easier for me to watch. However, we were watching the second season of a show I'd never seen. I wasn't disinterested, but I wasn't like super interested in the show either. So, and I was I was pretty tired. We were all pretty tired. So like, at that point, I didn't want to advocate for myself because I didn't mind not really being part of the whole experience. And I still felt like I was like part of it, even though I didn't understand the story or what we watched at all.
Yeah, I still do that kind of thing too. And I feel like it comes down to like, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in my opinion, it's you care more about being part of the social fun than the actual show you're watching.
Exactly.
Because if you had asked to sit close, you would have been kind of removed from the group.
Right, and I wanted to sit next to my friends.
And you wanted us to be with your friends, and it doesn't really matter. I still do that. I'll still watch movies with people I can't see, just kind of because it's part of a social thing. It's not like, if I really wanted to see the movie, I would, but sometimes you just don't care. I think, like, for me lately, okay, so I used to, like, always use my monocular to watch Broadway shows and stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel like in like an academic setting, I used it all the time and it wasn't a problem. But I feel like for some reason in a theater, it just feels a little more weird. I feel like especially because like lately, like people are recording a lot with their with cameras and phones and stuff in theaters, and it's really frowned upon. And for me, like I don't want someone to think I'm like trying to record it, because people don't know what a monocular is when you pull it out. Like they don't really know what you're doing.
It does kind of look like a little camera lens.
Yeah, and like I know it doesn't matter, but for some reason, like that's one of the things, and there are quite a few things I still get a little bit embarrassed over. Even with my cane, I still get a little like, you know, self-conscious about.
Right.
But that was just something I was thinking about recently, that like I'll do it if I really want to do it, especially if it's like a show I've never seen before that I really want to follow the story better.
Right.
But at the same time, like it's one of those things, like do you care more about the embarrassment or more about getting what you want? And like and it depends for me. But
no, I mean I do a similar thing where like I won't take my I don't know if I ever have taken my monocular to a concert. Because one, I think it would be in the way, and two, like honestly, I'm probably not going to be able to see their faces super well, even with the monocular.
No, I don't do anything at concerts, because for me, it's like 90% a listening experience anyway. Like, would I like to see the artist? Sure, but it doesn't make it any less good for me, I don't think. Like,
I went to a show with a friend in November, and she is one of those people with eyes that, man, she just notices everything.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I went with her, because you know, even though I didn't get the same experience she did, and I go to concerts all the time, and I'm just there for the music experience for the most part. But like when we were talking about what she liked, because it was like her first show, she was like, oh, I really loved like I don't know, they like played their instruments well, because she could see them playing their instruments. And she was like, I also like, they were really happy, like their face was super into it. I was like, I would never have known that, but you know, I'm glad I got the experience vicariously. But that's the kind of thing where like, you don't really need to have to advocate for yourself all the time or have the same experience.
No, we've always lived this way, so to us it's normal, and we don't really, I know a lot of sighted people are like, you're missing out so much, but it's like, we don't even care. We don't even know what we're missing out on.
Missing.
My mom was telling me the other day, actually, so really quick story. We went to Hamilton, and we took my 6-year-old nephew, and I know a lot of you listening are like, oh my gosh, that's so young, but he loves it, and he's very, very good at sitting in a theater for a long period of time. He was very respectful, and he did a great job, you know, being quiet and just watching, and he loved it. Anyway, he's very short. He's 6 years old. My mom was so stressed that there was like a really tall person sitting in front of him, and my mom was so stressed that he couldn't see, and do you need to move? Do you need to do this? Like, can you see? Can you see? And she looked at me and she was like, oh my gosh, this is just bringing back so many memories of your entire childhood. I was always just so stressed that you couldn't see anything. I was so upset by it. I was so stressed at everything we would go to that everyone else could see and you couldn't see. And we were laughing about it, because she was like, now I don't care. Now I know that you enjoy it. But back when you were a child, I would really agonize over that for you. And I just thought that was funny, because any parent is going to feel that way. But for us, we never really cared that much.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Some things you just don't mind not seeing, and that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't want to speak for you, too, but, like, don't you feel that way? You never really cared?
Sometimes.
I mean, sometimes I wanted, like, I always wanted to
really
see it, but it never was, like, it was never something where I would go home and cry about it.
Right, well, and, like, I don't know. I'm an extrovert. I'm, like, a pretty social person. I guess for Enneagram people, that's like my wing 7. I would honestly just rather be with people most of the time than see the subject matter.
Well, there's always something to enjoy. If we go to a concert and we can't see it, we can hear it. Like, there's always something we still enjoy those things just as much, if not more, than the people who can see all of it. Like, I would go to Disney on Ice as a child, and even just the lights and the colors,
and the
like
music.
I don't have to see their faces. Like, I just don't know, like sometimes I'd be a little upset that I couldn't see things, but I I would feel a little excluded, but I would never feel like really sad and miserable over it. Like,
yeah, I don't know. There's just so much to experience in the world, even if you can't see every detail. And I think that also matters. I think people are really afraid to like not have all of their vision because they don't know. They forget about all of the rich experience you can still have without vision or with limited vision.
People rely on vision too much, if you ask me. Maybe we're
same.
experiencing the other senses better than they do, so
We just notice them more. But yeah, it's been some time, but would we like to play a game?
We would like to play a game. We are going to play a game today. Who is more likely to?
Would you like to go first?
Yes, I did not write these out beforehand.
Me neither, okay.
I'm looking them up. I'm looking them up on a website.
Okay.
So this is from a website, okay? And some of these are inappropriate.
Whoa.
So
we have
I'm
a
not
family-friendly
gonna do that.
podcast here.
Okay, this one is who's more likely to have a reality show?
Ooh, wow, that's super interesting. Huh. I don't think either of us would like that.
No, I would not want that. So I can't really say who'd be more likely. I can't see either of us doing that.
I really can't.
No.
No thanks.
No, never.
Okay. Yeah, some of these are inappropriate. Ooh.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, I see. I see that. I think we're on the same website. Okay.
We might be.
Ooh, who's more likely to be afraid of spiders?
Oh my gosh, that's so hard. Because I was gonna say you, because Cass has all these recurring nightmares about like infestations and bugs and stuff all the time.
Oh, God.
But also Cass, I literally, if I see a spider, I literally make my mother or father come over to my house. I cannot do it. I
scream, but I'll muster up the courage to like smush it several times.
Oh
but,
my gosh. So I don't know who
that's tough.
is more afraid. Oh, that's really tough, man.
I will say, like, as far as spiders specifically go, I know that they're in my house, but I'm kind of glad specifically about the spiders because I know that they'll eat other bugs. So in my brain, I like to think that the spiders that live here are cleaning.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, that one's kind of a weird one. Who's more likely to sleepwalk? This is something I don't know about you. Have you ever sleepwalked?
I don't think so. I think my brother has, but I don't think I ever have.
I have not either.
I'm a pretty deep sleeper.
Yeah, I've like talked in my sleep, but no, not sleepwalk.
Oh boy. Oh, this is kind of funny. Who's most likely to be late to their own wedding?
It has the only reason I'm gonna say you is because I'm like a very punctual person.
I am not a punctual person.
So, I mean, I don't think you'd be late to your own wedding,
I don't think I would be just because, like, I like to plan things and when the stakes are high, I'll be there. But if it were...
No, you'll be, yeah, you're not like... it's not like you don't care.
Right.
Like, especially about, like, your wedding. But
if it
I'm
were
just, like,
either
weirdly
of us,
punctual.
it would be me.
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't do it, but if we had to choose between us, it would probably be me. Okay. Well, that's a weird one. Who's most likely to have a lot of brothers and sisters? We know how many, like, siblings we have. That doesn't make sense.
That's such a weird question.
Okay, that's so weird. Let's see. Who's most likely to live in a big city? You know what's funny?
That's so funny.
We both have, and for me, like, even longer as far as, like, actually, like, living there. But I feel like it would be you, though.
I love cities. I love, like, fast-paced...
I like city. I couldn't do small town, but I kind of prefer something in between.
Yeah.
But I like big cities, but I feel like I can just see, I don't know. I mean,
that was
I think
always
both
my
of us could
teen
do
dream was to live in New York, and you did it.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I did do it, but I feel like it would fit you too.
Probably. Okay, I love this question because it's us. Who's more likely to be a race car driver?
Oh my god. Okay, if we theoretically had driver's license, I mean, I think it would have to be you.
I guess, but man.
I feel like you're more daring than I am, don't you think?
Yeah. But
I'm
the
a fraidy
the thought of that is, I guess, who's more likely to be a better driver? I would say you, because you're more conscientious.
No, but race car driving, you can't be conscientious. Like, you can't be like I would be a good driver because I would be like timid about it. But you can't be if you're a race car driver. You got to be like ready to push the pedal to the metal.
So, okay, I would be a race car driver, but you would be a much better and safer driver.
I feel like, here's the thing with driving. I feel like I would be a safe driver, but I also feel like my anxiety would actually cause more harm than good, too. Like, I feel like I would be an anxious driver, and I don't think anxious drivers are good either, because you don't want to be, you need to be relaxed when you're driving, and I don't think I would be. I'd be an incredibly anxious driver, even if I could see. I know I would, and that's why I don't choose to drive. I mean, choose is a you know, that's said lightly, because I mean, who's to say I could even get a license? I'm barely on the line of bioptic driving here, but
fair,
you know,
same.
like I'm not saying like it's a choice completely. It's not really a choice. I can't see most things, especially in the sunlight. I can't see anything. So, but if I was choosing to go after bioptic driving dreams, I'd be too anxious to even do it. But I think that's because I can't see. Like, maybe if I could see, I wouldn't be as anxious about it. I don't know.
Ooh, there's no way to know, is there?
But I think that was the last one, because I did 3.
Yeah, okay. Well, we did it. We did a game. We did it. We started out strong with a longer episode for this season 3, but, you know, we hope that it was educational and motivational,
yes,
and I don't know.
Yes, we do, and we hope you can maybe take some of the advice we said with you as you go out into the world and know that you're not alone and that we are experiencing this too. So yeah, we hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.
In 2 weeks. Bye!
Bye!